Okay.
Oh, here we go. All right, so are you ready for me?
Yeah, yeah. We're on.
Okay, hello.
Okay.
Trying to
Hello.
make sure I
So,
don't get disturbed.
Kevin. So everyone, welcome to Tea Across the Miles with Lady Amy and Lady Nancy. Um, so we have had, let's see, a month off or 2 months off. When did
Oh
we
my
last talk?
gosh, easily 2 months, easily
August?
2 months off. Was it August?
Or did
Yeah,
we?
and
Yeah,
then July. I have to go back and take a look.
I
It's
know,
been quite a
same here.
while, quite a while.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've had travels, we've had illness.
I'm gonna,
We've had,
yeah,
yeah,
wouldn't
we've
try.
had kindergarten, yeah, diseases. um,
Well, and as a substitute teacher, knowing that I was going to be traveling, I told them, don't even bother asking. I'm not coming in because
just like,
same thing with us. I mean, we hit the ground running with gastrointestinal, COVID, and pink eye over in the school. And I'm like, I'm not coming anywhere near you people. You are not interfering with my international travel plans. So
I love it. That's so
okay.
smart. Yeah, yeah. We had our first ever bout of pink eye, so we'd never experienced that before. So Piper had pink eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, luckily it wasn't too bad, like to the point, I mean, like she could still see, it wasn't like crazy puffy, but
Right.
yeah. But still to stay home and then get eye drops, and eye drops, they love those.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's
Any medicine. Yeah.
any
Right.
medicine, but yeah, trying to pin down a young child to put water in their eyes is like, wow. Yeah. Not
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Not
It's traumatic for all involved.
fun.
That's what I say.
Oh my gosh. It's you're making me flashback. So when my oldest was, who just turned 22, when he had developed, we don't know if it was a spider bite or what, but he developed these abscesses just below his belly button.
I know.
Pretty big, about the size of a golf ball, very painful. So, it's pretty routine. The doctors just go in and they lance it, and, and I had to give him an antibiotic afterwards. And there was this one, everybody remember this, clindamycin. It
Okay.
bane of my existence. It smelled like rotting meat.
Oh my
And
god.
it was horrible. And he says, well, you can try to mask it. There's no masking something that if it smells that bad, I promise you it tastes that bad.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
here I'm supposed to expect a 4-year-old to take this medication. And I mean, they were, I tried it for 2 days. One
Yeah.
day I was on him, holding him down. I was kneeling on his hands and laying over him so he could not kick me. When I got the medicine in his mouth, he spit it back out, released his hands from my knee, grabbed it and threw it across the room. This is my never had a tantrum child. So I took
Yeah,
I took that medicine back to the pediatrician, and he
yeah.
said, well, he's got to take something. And I said, then give him something else. And he said, but this, I said, it's better than getting nothing. I'd rather have the weaker medication because I said, and he said, I know it's hard. He says, my child doesn't even like to take Tylenol. And I'm like, and you expect me to give him this? And he said, well, and I'm like, and I started getting pretty hot. I'm like, you come to my house and you give him the medicine 4 times a day. You do it. And he gave him penicillin, amoxicillin, something, and it was fine.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, amoxicillin is usually the one. That's like, so when I was a kid, I had amoxicillin and got like a rash or something. So now it's forever on my record as my allergy to medication.
Yes.
So like anything related to it. So it's like I got sick too after Piper and like had like a sinus infection, and they wanted to give me something that, and then they saw the amoxicillin thing. They're like, oh, well, like, okay, well, we'll have to give you this other thing that it's not as strong, right? It's like it's the weaker version, but we can't give you the tough one. It's like,
something,
right.
it's a little something is better than nothing at all.
Yeah, and the little something was fine. It worked just fine. So I'm like, I don't know why. Yeah.
Well, I guess what they did is they took a sample of, for lack of a better term, although this is our Halloween segment, so let me just go ahead and say plus. They took some and they tested it with the different antibiotics, and they said it responded to the clindamycin best. So that's what they, so that's what they said that.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, my son did not respond to the clindamycin the best, so it was quickly out.
Oh my goodness.
So before the water gets,
before the water gets cold. Yeah.
so it was my turn to host and send, but I'm also going to double up because I'm going to do next month's as well. I can't wait to share some of the teas. So the first one we have is Hojicha, which is I believe it's a Japanese, if not a Chinese. I don't know. It's terrible. I should know this. But so the woman who I work with down at the Lorton Workhouse Art Center, who hires me to come in and do the talk about how tea is related to the suffrage movement. She lived in Japan for a little while, and she said she used to love this tea. So I ordered a sample. It is very earthy on that, the wheel that you and I have, to me, I call it a very Asian tea. It has, some just very earthy qualities to it. The second one is a tea that, so a few months ago, I wouldn't have said this, but I'm going to say it now. It's not my favorite. I don't like it very much. I wouldn't have said that a few months ago because this tea was brought back to me from France by the girl that is now my son's ex-girlfriend.
I wondered, like, why can you say it now?
I loved her. I love her still. They're great. I hope that the future,
right.
But she's a year behind him in college. He's going into the Marine Corps. Let me just pause and say too, he has been accepted to flight school for the Marine Corps.
Oh my gosh.
Everything awesome. He has wanted, the half of my heart that is incredibly proud of him, the other half of my heart that is broken. I don't want him in this hellish world that is getting worse.
Right.
To have to be learning how to fly jets. Anyway, so going back, she's Army, he's Marines, she's a junior, he's a senior. And she practically, and I mean that in a practical sense, said, I think we need to cool our jets because I can see that we're not going to be able to continue. And they were so great. I loved her, but I didn't care for this tea. Even from the start, I didn't care for it. And then the third one I picked up in Nashville, and it's hot spice. And I just love this one because you don't find a lot of teas, but it's it's a good one to end on because it's going to lead us into the season of Thanksgiving and Christmas and everything.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it.
Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and start steeping.
Okay. Yeah, I did. So what did we say it was?
Hojicha. Yeah. Hojicha.
Okay.
I don't want to be offensive.
Yeah. Interesting. Let's see. So we also have to hear about your Ireland travels.
Yes, you do. Oh my God, so great. So great. Loved it. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Everything went so beautifully and so smoothly. We did get off late by about an hour from JFK because of a storm. Got a little sleep on the plane. Left 90 plus degrees and a storm in New York, and landed in a gorgeously blue sky, sunny 62 degrees in Dublin. And it was phenomenal. We certainly had prepared, we're like, we need to embrace the rain. We need to embrace the inclement weather. We bought the waterproof hiking boots, the rain pants, the 2 raincoats, had the umbrellas, we had all of that. And he would step off to this immaculate, what we would call a all day here. Took a while to get the car. Jose did a phenomenal job driving on the left side of the road. Left side of the road, right side of the car.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yes. He did a great job. But he's, more technical, more mechanical, for crying out loud, flies a helicopter for God's sake. So, so I had a lot of confidence in him to begin with. But I was constantly on my phone. Okay, we're coming out. They don't have traffic lights. They have roundabouts. And it's like, okay, so if you're going to take the first exit, you got to be in this lane. But if you're going to take the other, you have to be in that.
Yeah, multiple lane roundabouts are like the worst.
They are. So he had researched that. Jose and I are very methodical.
Yeah.
Also known as type A anal retentive.
It's like to be prepared.
Completely. I mean, we knew that there were going to be tolls. We knew that there was going to be this, there was going to be that, you know, we
Yeah.
booked ahead the tours that we could, and the others, you know, we knew we could wait till we got there. You know, and I crafted this agenda for like 2.5 solid weeks, looking at how much time do you need there and how much time does it take to travel to the next place, and do you have to have cash, and do they have toilets? And so it all just paid off for incredibly smooth. But let me tell you, so at first I was calling it a happy accident, but then we have since started calling it the luck of the Irish. I usually travel with, on my Google Maps, where it says, you know, you can avoid tolls.
Yeah.
And so Jose says, make sure you turn that back on, because there are a couple toll roads we need to take to get there faster. We'll just pay the tolls. Somehow, and completely unintentional and unbeknownst to me, for at least the first 4 days, I also hit avoid highways. It was everything we ever wanted. We took all the back country roads and you know, there's a castle. Oh, I wonder what that was.
Oh
you
my
know?
gosh.
And the
awesome.
sheep and the cows and the countryside and the coastline of the Wild Atlantic Way and the little thatched huts, and phenomenal. It was just beautiful from start to end. We did have a couple days where the weather wasn't great. Again, we just embraced it. The worst day, it was our second to last day. We were heading back into Dublin, and we stopped at a place called Glendalough. And it's an ancient monastic city founded by Hermit Kevin, who became Saint Kevin in the 6th century. Okay, so there are buildings that are still there from the 15th and 16th centuries. 12th century, something like that. Anyway, whatever it is, all these old headstones, stuff like that. It's raining. It's not great. We're taking this walk with all our rain gear. And I'm like, what is that noise? And I kept complaining, this would have been the day that I wanted to have the blue sky for the pictures with all the old buildings. I'm like, what is that noise? What is that noise? As we're walking, came across the most spectacular waterfall. And Jose said, you did all the research, you know? And I said, no, I don't remember reading about a waterfall. When we got to our hotel that night, our stuck-up French concierge had a moment of humility, that who's actually willing to share something with me. And he said, so you saw the waterfall? And I said, I did. He says, I've been there twice, and there's almost never any water running from it. And I'm like, no, it was gushing. It was gorgeous.
Oh my gosh.
Things like that, you know, get to the Guinness bar, they call it the Bar None, where you overlook the city. It's so packed. I'm like, we're never going to get a seat next to the window. We're staying right there. This couple says, would you like our seats? Yes, overlooking the best part of Dublin. I'm like crying. I'm like, this is so great. Just things like that just kept happening. The weather we needed was always, you know, like we spent all day outdoors in Dublin, took 4 tours by foot, and we saw 1 speck of rain, and everything else was just phenomenal. Just loved it. Everyone's so friendly, so funny. All the tour guides, they have such a great sense of humor. It was just lovely. The best thing we did, and then I'll stop because I could go on.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
We rented electric bikes to bike the Dingle Peninsula, which takes you as you're going through these, you know, every road, just like in the countryside of England, all these stone roads, stacked stone roads.
Yeah.
So we're riding along, and you're looking down into cliffs and ocean, blue ocean, and with mountains and craggy hills up this side, and sheep pens, and the potato famine cottages, and the beehive huts that are prehistoric. We did the same thing in when we got to Galway. We took a boat over to the Aran Islands and did electric bikes through there, and then came back and saw the cliffs from the water. It just, and again, it was an ugly day, but as soon as we started coming up to the cliffs, the sky cleared up, and, you know, got great pictures. And it was just things like that happened throughout the trip. Just the 2 of us, great food, good music, good pubs, good drinks, good times. We just had it was just phenomenal. It was so much fun. We are so ready to go back.
Amazing. Did you stay at the same place the whole time?
We were in Cork the first night, Kenmare the second night, Dingle the third night. We stayed in Galway 2 nights. We stayed in Dublin 2 nights. This was not the sit back with a cocktail in your hand, relax. Ireland is just small enough to be able to get a lot done in a week if you're willing
Yeah.
to be up and running,
Right.
and can tolerate the rain. And so that's what we did. And we just every day, you know, I like text us a picture from our trip and I'm like, I need this again.
It's amazing. Yeah, right.
It was
Oh my
awesome.
gosh.
So
Yeah,
you,
yes, no, I added my sugar already.
Mhm.
Yeah, I see.
Earthy.
It's like, it's earthy. It's like,
Okay, so I'm just reading from Amy's tone and look on her face. She don't like it.
well, I don't dislike it. It's weird because I feel like it's like two different flavors happening. Like when I'm drinking it at first, hold on.
And then the after that you get through your nasal cavity.
Yeah, like, okay, so as I'm drinking it, it tastes like some kind of sort of like basic black tea or whatever that's
Yes.
sweetened. Afterwards, it's so I'm not a coffee person. It tastes like coffee to me.
You're second you said that, I picked up on that. You're right. There is something, because I was going to say cocoa earlier, but now I'm getting the coffee.
Yeah, it's
behind
the
it.
coffee thing. Yeah, so
Not horrible, but this is nothing that I would serve to my
Yeah.
guests. This is something that would be very specific to somebody who likes a very earthy tea. Maybe
Mhm.
somebody who prefers Japanese, Chinese tea over,
right.
you know,
Yes,
English.
cat.
Hello, well, that would,
Here's my ghost cat.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah, it makes me think of like when I'm drinking it, it makes me think of like, I don't know, if I'm in England at like a hotel and they have like a random like bag of black tea that like you just like fix or whatever. Like it tastes like, it doesn't taste like, I don't know, Lipton or whatever, but
No, no.
it has a flavor that's reminding me of something, and then like immediately it's gone. It tastes like coffee.
Yeah, but I get that. And I think you're right.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. And it's funny,
Interesting,
interesting. Yeah.
interesting.
Interesting, but I'll say, but not like yuck. It's
This
not
is
as
nothing
bad.
you would take to a tea party to try to impress your guests.
Right, right. Depending on who my guest was.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, what was I gonna say? The Ireland trip, I imagine, is super amazing now that electric bikes are a thing. Right?
Love them. They are so, you know, they
Like
were
that
so much
you're
fun.
not actually, riding bikes up and down the hills.
Yeah, no, like I said, we did it twice. We did, where did we go? The first, golly days, why am I blanking? We rented bikes. Oh, our first day, we went into Killarney National Park.
Mhm.
You can't say Killarney, you have to say Killarney. Killarney National Park, where there is a waterfall, Torque Waterfall, and there's an old house. And I remember again, the English came in and shoved the Irish out, made everything that was Irish illegal, their language, their ways of cooking, things like that. So there's this beautiful English manor called Muckross, Muckross, Muckross House. And we went to see that, and we rented bikes just to go around there because it's within the national park. We saw red deer. They're just kind of floating around with the cows.
What does red deer look like?
Yeah, it was lovely, but it's
Does it
almost
look like different deer? Like different than our deer?
a little bit. They have a big, I can show it to you. They got a big white print on their behind.
Okay.
It looks like they got kicked by another deer.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, they mostly look the same. They're just a slight difference. But it's a beautiful piece of property, incredibly windy. One of the gusts of winds almost literally knocked me over.
gosh.
We took a tour of the house. And it was kind of neat because there are a lot of historic things in there. I have these pictures of rows of shoes, and they're like the old, the turn of the century, late 1800s, like lace-up shoes, right down to the horse riding boots, and the bells, down the old Downton Abbey, the service bells that, I mean, there must have been 50 bells, dear God, there were so many. So we rented regular bikes that day, and it rained on us, but it was still, my God, we were just like, we're an island. I don't care. I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm not
part
there.
of it.
Yeah. But I will say, God bless him. Second day, my dad had a heart attack
Oh
back
my
in,
gosh.
back in Florida. And my oldest sister was in Norway while she was on her vacation. So I did have the two sisters. It was mild, thank God, and they were able to put a stent in. But that was part of my remembrance of Killarney is getting the news that my dad had had a heart attack. So
Jeez Louise.
God bless him. Yeah. Cheers, Dad.
Two of you are international.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as soon as we got back to the car, we called, and I was
Yeah.
talking to my mom, and my dad's voice piped in, and it just sent me in tears. I was like, oh my God, and he's like, and he's turned in, to this sweet old man that you hear about, and he just was very calm about it. He just said, you just keep having a great time, and I'm going to see you when you get back. So, yeah, so everything,
Awesome.
yeah. So anyway, all right. So Hojicha, and now we have, I don't even know what this is because it was written in French on the label, and it was handwritten in French on the label to boot. She said she
Gotcha.
loved it, and she brought back, I mean, she did when, she was getting
Yeah.
boyfriend
yeah.
mom points with me,
Right,
trying to
right.
bring me tea. It's very aromatic. There's a perfume smell to it, right?
Yeah. And like a berry taste to it.
There is a berry, which I believe is raspberry.
Okay. That would make sense.
Tiny little white flecks of white chocolate, which I don't pick up in here. But it just kind of fell flat. And
that's what I would say. Yeah, it's like I feel like it tastes good while you're drinking it, but yeah, it's sort of like it's not like like the Parisian teas that I have, the Palais d'été, whatever.
right.
The brand.
Right. Well, and you and I always prefer a floral fruit. That's where we stick on the wheel there. So
right, and I like so it's like those floral fruity ones, kind of like it carries through. You're right. This one kind of like falls flat at a certain point.
it does, and it's, to me, it wasn't pleasant. And so I was sitting, she came and stayed with us a couple of days at the beginning of the summer, and so I made us both the tea, and she's like, isn't it good? I'm like, this is delicious. Thank you. And I have a big canister of it, so I don't think she'll ever get on here and watch me. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna be giving it away.
Okay. Well, I gotta say I added another spoon of a sweetener to it, and that made it
palatable.
It made the raspberry stand out more.
Okay.
So like it tastes a lot more red raspberry.
Yes.
You sweeten it more. But
let's revisit that whole thing about the sugar. So you just said it brings out the raspberry, and you and I have said before, it's kind of like eating meat without salt. Right. Salt brings out the flavor. Salt, lemon, they bring out the flavor in other foods. And so, when you have this, Twining's Seventh Earl, that says you should never add sugar to your tea because it dulls the palate. I don't agree. I think it pulls out the flavors of a lot of the teas that you and I enjoy.
I agree. Well, and on that point, I feel like I was telling someone recently about our tea tastings that we do, and I said, I was like, well, we do it our own way. He said we pretty much always add sugar first before we even taste it because we know there's no point in tasting it without. They acted like that was crazy, and I'm like, no, like it tastes like, I don't know, there's more flavor to it. Like
there is. I enjoy it more. And let me say too that most of the time the teas that I send you have already flavored, and I might take the sip without the sugar. I want to see what that's like. I've got the friends that do. Oh no, I never take sugar in my tea, and I'm like, yeah.
You're missing out.
That's why you're skinnier than I am.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's like, well, that's why I like call it sweet, or I have like whatever the Truvia stuff, but it actually is like a blend of Truvia and sugar or whatever that they sell. It's like,
okay, all right.
So it's not straight up either way. But so wait, for the French one, okay, so which place did you stay that had the French concierge that was snobby?
Oh my gosh, awesome hotel. It was really fantastic, and I wish we could have stayed longer, and well, golly, I just wish we could have stayed longer. But and taken advantage. We got there and they gave us like coupons for free drinks and food items and things like that, and we did not get to participate in their little bar. It used to be the Juris Hotel, Jurys, Juris Hotel.
Okay.
It is now the Leonardo's Hotel. It's part of a chain.
Mhm.
And it was lovely. And we had the most spectacular view. So again, I keep calling it the luck of the Irish. I didn't know what we were getting. We were up on the top floor. And when you look out the window, I've got to see if I can find this picture. When you look out the window, we were staring at the Christ Church, which is almost 1,000 years old.
Oh, wow.
And it was the most spectacular. So when we got in, it was raining. Here it is. This was my view, our view, our first morning in Dublin.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
Perfect.
It was
Wow.
it's
What, so
spectacular.
you said the top floor. How many
Yeah,
floors?
It was only like 5 floors. It's only 5
Oh,
floors.
okay, well I feel like that's tall for a hotel over there.
It's very central to everything.
Yeah.
And we paid to have the breakfast included in our package so that we could go down and we did the full Irish. The full Irish is exactly like a full English. You get the black sausage, the white sausage, which I loved the white sausage. It was
white sausage.
It so much more. It's more closely resembles American Jimmy Dean kind of thing like that. Not in texture, but in flavor.
Okay.
Their puddings, I should say, the black pudding, white pudding. Remember, they're a little. If you've ever had it, I don't know if you have in your trips to England. So it's a little.
I've had black pudding now.
Yeah, so it's a little bit grittier. And then of course your eggs, your sunny side up, your bacon rashers, which is more like ham. They consider bacon, we consider more like ham. There might be tater tots or hash browns, some kind of potato, and stewed mushrooms, and like a grilled or steamed tomato. Huge breakfast. Well, I have
beans. Did they have baked beans?
Oh yes, and the baked beans, of course. The baked, of course. So I think we were in Kenmare when Jose ordered his first full Irish, and I had a scone and a pear and almond scone with my tea, and we just kind of shared because it's a bit of a big breakfast. Things that cracked us up were that everywhere we went, we were surrounded by Americans, and surrounded everywhere you go. Everybody's got an American accent. Our morning in Kenmare, as we were eating breakfast, the music playing. It's a lovely, teeny tiny little place, little tuck in, and this music playing, and it's the Nashville country music. And like this song from Blake Shelton comes on, and I'm like, look at Jose, Blake Shelton. And I look over, and right over here at the table adjacent to us is an older couple who were doing a pilgrimage to kind of trace their roots back to her great grandfather, something like that. But I happen to look over and I see her leaning into her husband. She goes, that's Blake Shelton. And so, and I have no qualms about getting up and going and talking to total strangers. So I do this all over Ireland. And I go over and I'm like, where are you from? I said, and she goes, we're actually from Texas. I said, so you came all the way to Ireland to hear Texas music? And she just laughed. But it was great. It was just a lot of fun. This particular hotel was very central to everything. I mean, Guinness was just right over here, St. Patrick's Cathedral down this way. Over here is Trinity College, Book of Kells, and Dublin Castle. So we were right in the middle of exactly where we wanted to be. So it was lovely. It's lovely.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
Or as they say, just fucking grand. So it was just lovely. And can't say enough about it. Would love to go back. It could rain every day and I'd be pleased.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that's so neat. Yeah, I'm like, I would love to go back to Ireland now. It's been a minute.
Did you honeymoon there? When did you go? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I'm like, I went, it was part of the first trip that I went on, the student one. But then, let's see, I went back in 2006. I was studying in England. I'm wondering if that was the last time I actually went, because I don't think Dave and I made it over to Ireland, and I haven't been since. So I guess it was like 2006, and I went, and it was like a few-day trip because we were like stationed in London, and it was just like I think our fall break or whatever. Christina, my friend Christina and I went to Madrid for a little bit, and then we went to Dublin for a little
Culture
bit.
shock. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And we did not stay in a great place. We stayed in hostels, and youth hostels. And the one in Ireland was we chose poorly. So like we get there, they didn't give you sheets and stuff. Like you were supposed to apparently bring your own thing and like towels and whatever. And so like because when we stayed at a hostel in Madrid that was like really nice and pretty cool. Um, yeah, no, we get to Ireland and it's like here's your empty bunk bed and it's freezing cold everywhere and here's your cold shower and no towel. And we're just like, what is this?
Oh my
But
gosh.
it looks cool at first, like when you go in because it's like clearly just I don't know, it's been some sort of storefront or business forever and it's
Yeah.
like all stones and like, there's like tables and stuff out. But then when you get back to wherever the beds and stuff are, it's like, here's your empty prison suite.
That's terrible. Oh my
But
gosh.
luckily, I think we stayed there 2 nights at most. We might have only been there one night, I think, but it was ridiculous. And we like slept with our stuff, like our bags and stuff. Like it seemed like no one, like you weren't supposed to just leave stuff around because someone might steal it or whatever. So yeah, it was ridiculous. And I don't remember what we had. We had to make do with something. Maybe we did have a towel or something that we had brought. But anyway, it was like you had like a towel for your shower, and then like you'd also try to cover up with it night.
Oh my gosh. Mm.
So yeah, I'd like to do it as like a real adult and not as a.
Well, bed and breakfasts are all over, all over. And you can like there was so when we stayed, it used to be a bed and breakfast. It's now just bed. They whited out the sign, but that was in Kenmare. There were a handful of places you just jot down the street real quick, and and you can get a little something for breakfast. So yeah, I highly recommend because they're so friendly and so charming, but they are small. The place we stayed in Dingle was one night we could barely. Now Jose and I are not the backpacking kind of people.
Sure.
And so we have these massive suitcases. Well, we could barely get our suitcases into the room.
Oh my gosh.
But it was neat. This was also the one bed and breakfast run by an American.
Oh wow.
And the one thing I said, because this is what you do, you say, hey, we're coming to celebrate our anniversary and my husband's recent retirement.
Yeah.
And this was the only place, and I shouldn't have expected it from anybody, but I do. It's the only place that actually they left us a bottle of Prosecco and a couple of wine glasses
nice.
when we tipped in there, which was great.
That's great.
It was great.
And it was the American that did it, right?
Yes. Yep.
The
Yeah.
American that
I was
did
like,
it.
okay, gotcha. And yeah, so the bed and breakfasts they were neat. I was trying to get those as much as possible. September is, so you'd think it's post busy season because it's post summer, but that's when a lot of grown-ups go because their kids are back in school. A lot of the kids in the area are back in school. Still too soon to start with field trips and stuff like that. So they're not as crowded. So we did find that even we were six weeks out, two months out, I think I was still looking for bed and breakfast. And some of them were, a lot of them were like, sorry, we don't have availability. Wow. So yeah, the sooner you can plan, the better, but I think there's always an option. There's always something. Yeah, it was, and they're nice.
When I went with Dave, we didn't go to Ireland, but we did go over to Wales, and he found like a random bed and breakfast that we had reservations at, and it was very sweet and quaint and like but it's like just the I don't know stairways to get to stuff, like tiny little stairways in houses, and then it's like you may or may not have like a full bathroom, or you might have like a bathtub just in the middle of the room.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's those fun surprises, but that one was really really nice. I like that. So yeah, you're right. If I go or whenever I get to go back as an adult, I'll do the bed and breakfast thing
The
because
bed and breakfast.
that's
Yeah.
best.
Well, there were
Yeah.
times we stayed in hotels and they were very nice. One of them was so far off the beaten path, in Galway, we were so far from city central. It's not something we could have walked to. We were
Okay.
it's a 12-minute drive into the main hub.
Hmm.
But like I said, Dublin worked out really, really well for us. Just being very central to everything. It was great.
Right.
Yeah. Did you try your
That's
third?
awesome. Oh no, not yet. Okay, so let me see. I think I already added my sugar. Let's see.
It smells great.
It smells so good.
I figured you this one, of all of them, this one you might like the most.
Yep, and it tastes good.
There's the clove and the cinnamon, and this is, it's not pumpkin spice, it's apricot spice now. But
yeah,
it's
and it is nice. It's like a different taste. It's not
yes,
just the seasonal fall thing,
exactly.
But you're right, the clove is really good.
Mhm.
I really like that clove in there.
Yes. So I love telling this story. This cracks me up and it's gonna take me back to Ireland again, but so Jose and we've had these conversations, and I'll ask you too, that sometimes you get a whiff of something and you can't tell, was that a good smell or a bad smell? Sometimes your olfactory kind of gets tripped up. Like, what was that? Was that coffee or was it skunk? What was that? I can't tell.
Right. Yeah.
So here we are, we're riding along in Dingle, having truly, I mean, that was the pinnacle of the trip. That was just one of the most amazing things we've ever done. And the sights and everything, and the smells of the fresh air, and it was drizzling a little bit. So everything, it was really nice, but the area also has peat in the soil, and that may not be a pleasant smell. And we would pass sheep pastures frequently. And so at one point we got off because I was, me, I'm like stopping and, oh, I want to picture that. Oh, I want to picture that, and he said, we got to get the bikes back. So we stop at this one point, and he goes, he says, doesn't it smell so good? He said, I swear, he said, I was smelling something. He said, didn't you smell that? It smelled like apple pie. And I said, you think you smelled apple pie? And he goes, well, it was one of those things. I couldn't quite tell if I was smelling apple pie or sheep shit. And every time I think about that, I crack that. So I make these elaborate photo books of our vacation. And I thought you open up the book and it's going to have that quote, Jose Rodriguez. I couldn't tell if it was apple pie.
Awesome.
So, anyway,
Oh,
so much of it was just a fun time. And it's easy because you don't have to learn the language.
Right.
All of the signs or roads are incredibly well marked. The roads are very clean from the highway down to the tiny little, the 2-lane country roads, don't hit me. All very clean. And again, because of the English influence, when they had gone into Ireland, Irish still have their own language. It was suppressed. So when you see the signs, they have, on the top is the English, or it's the Irish, I think it was Irish on top, that you can never pronounce. You think you can, but you can't. And then it's the English phonetic of what of what it is now, of what, and it's still, when you say it, it sounds very similar to the Irish. Because they didn't know what to make of that language. That language is very unusual. It's so mysterious.
Is it like, is the language called Celtic, or what is it?
They call it Irish. Excuse me, got a little piece of dust there. It's Irish, yes, but it's basically, I believe that's what it is. So if you get a chance, there's this great video. What's her name is now I'm not gonna Saoirse. She's the actress, she's the Irish actress, and she was in Brooklyn and she was in Elizabeth and Mary. She was in a couple things, but her Soirse, I think is how it looks. Saoirse. Okay. And it's pronounced Saoirse. And I know, where do you get that? It's very unusual. So she's being interviewed by Stephen Colbert. And he's apparently out there, he says, okay, how do you pronounce this? And you'd have like something that ends in RG, but ends, has a D sound. And it's like, well, where do you get the D out of that? So a very unusual language. It's a funny little clip if you ever want to
That's
take a look
great.
at
I'll
it.
have to look at I'll have to look at it. That's funny. Yeah, and like now I'm thinking like there's a funny Irish comedian slash actress. And she's been on like promoting her stuff as a guest on some of my comedy podcasts that I listen to. And now I can't remember. I'm gonna have to look it up and see what her name is because they always make fun of her for like, don't you know you're saying your name wrong, like, or it's spelled wrong or whatever. She was in the newest Home Alone movie, which was like, I forget what it's called. It was like a couple of years ago. Do you remember the let's
Didn't see it.
movie? Let's see. So anyway, so I'll find her. But what what was I gonna say? So I was, obviously I went to England right at the beginning of May, and I was talking with someone. Actually, it was probably my coworker, Dirk. And because I was discussing how, like, of all the times I went, like, I was like, I guess I'm just older because now this is the time where I noticed like things that seemed inconvenient or like, annoying or whatever, uncomfortable, right? And then, but as we were talking, I was like, oh no, you know what it was? I go, this is the first time I traveled there on my own and was going around on my own. I go, usually I'm so oblivious to everything else because I'm like talking with friends or hanging out or whatever, right? Because I was talking about like in college, some of the trips we went on, there was like, we were probably the annoying group of Americans on the tube, right? And like being super loud. And I was like, oh, that's why. That's why I noticed. I was actually aware of my surroundings.
It's called maturity and wisdom.
Right, right. But I was like, but if I had, like a travel companion, still you'd be like talking, you do
Yeah.
whatever, right? So
Mhm.
like, so I say that because I like to sort of revise all of my statements about my trip. I think it probably, it probably wouldn't have been as harshly reviewed by me if I would have just had somebody there with me.
To distract you from all the annoyances.
Exactly. Yeah, to distract me from being hot on the tube and yeah, I'm like, what else? Oh, and the bus, yeah. The bus is hot. But
He was asking me, he said, he said, so what do you find similar and what do you find different between England and Ireland? And I'm like, no, remember, I've been Ireland, or I've been to London one time. I've only been to Ireland once. And London is not the same as Ireland. Dublin is not Ireland.
right.
Dublin's relatively small, kind of like London is not very big either. But I would say that within the city of London, you get some of that snootery that, that,
Yeah. Mhm.
that the English are known for. I would say that, and I didn't have a lot of interaction out in the country, but we did go to a few places and it seemed, a couple of there. Now, mind you, the places we went are probably getting fed up with tourists coming to look at them in their houses and stuff like that. So I can understand that too. But I just felt like overall the Irish were just very warm, open. It didn't, even just going into it, we didn't feel the need to dress up. We're like, this is Ireland, this is casual. These are people that just want to sit in the pub at the end of the day and cheers and sing and have, and watch the rugby games and things like that. Maybe it's not a fair statement because I'm certainly, I don't consider myself well-traveled, but I did feel that this was so much more relaxed. I think when I went to London, I was like, well, if I ever run across Kate, I hope I'm dressed well.
Right. Yeah. London's a very different feel.
Yes. So, they started doing football games over in London. So the Jacksonville Jaguars were there this past
That we talked sports on tea time last week.
Did you?
Sean came on and he was dressed with his Bills stuff. That's his Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. So I had a friend that I used to work with moons ago And she was there, and I, of course I texted her, I messaged her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so great. You guys having a good time. I said, have a wonderful time. Have a cup of tea for me. I said, but if you run into Kate, don't tell me, or I'm going to have to unfriend you out of sheer envy. And so we now have, I told you, we've got our friends that live in London. We now have another Navy couple that just relocated.
Oh my gosh. Fun.
Yeah. So, but we're hoping to go. It's all going to depend on what's going on with Jose's job and things like that. We're hoping to go for our spring break. We'd like to go over and take advantage of the fact that these couples are in London and have houses where they can, put us up and everything. So, anyway, so what's going on tea business wise? Anything?
Tea business wise, not necessarily like what has been happening. Well, first, I found the actress's name, but now I'm like, I don't even remember how she actually says it. I'm gonna type it in the chat so you can see. It's the first name that's like extra weird. I think the last name is called B, but
do I have to push something to see your chat? I'm not there.
Oh, maybe at the sorry. Well, I think it's AISLING, but I feel like she says like Ashling or something like
AIS what?
Yeah. LING. How do you say?
So yeah, so I would look at that and go, oh, it's Aisling, but it's probably not.
Right.
How
It's
to
not.
pronounce here, and so here's this on YouTube, how to pronounce.
Yeah, Ashling.
Ashling.
Ashling. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we had
Right,
friends.
I would say like Aisling or Isling.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. So we have friends that named their daughter Aoife, and it's AOIFA, and it's pronounced Aoife.
Okay.
Yeah, see, it's this wonderfully mysterious, I think it's so funny that, this is the land of the fairies and the, and things like that. Oh, we took a Dark Dublin tour, by the way. It's not a ghost tour. It's a tour that tells you the actual sinister side of Dublin, like days of cannibalism and things like that. So it was interesting. Jose's like, when we saw that, when we were researching, he's like, "Ooh, that looks cool, but you wouldn't want to do that." I'm like, "Let's do it. Why not? Why would I not?" So
talk about the fairies and like changelings and stuff.
Yes. And Hell's Kitchen. Is it Hell's Kitchen? Not Hell's Kitchen. Fire. Oh gosh, what was it? Now I can't think of what it is. The Fire something club. Anyway, it goes.
I know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched very recently a show. It's on Amazon. It's called Lore. It was a podcast first, but and honestly, it's like it's kind of okay. Like as far as like the show, I don't know, entertainment level. It's not super great, but they have one where it's all about fairies in Ireland, but it's about a woman in particular that essentially her husband thinks that she was taken by the fairies and she's a changeling, and the whole problem. So like they had like these ancient, I forget what they were originally, but they were like these like stone circles and stuff like everywhere, and like people didn't know what they were, and they called them the fairy circles, and they thought it was like a portal or whatever. So like her husband telling her like, don't go messing by those fairy circles trying to see your mother or whatever, and her dad lives with them and everything, and this is like, oh, and like what, this was like maybe, so she had like a sewing machine that like you push with your foot. It's like still very olden times.
Yeah.
Right? And it was like like a Singer sewing machine, and her apparently her little fashion business was bringing in more money than the husband's like woodworking business. And so the way that they tell the story, it's just kind of like she's getting a little, I don't know, big for her britches, right? Like you can't do better than your husband, and so like you're making him look bad. But so she goes off and and apparently, her mother used to hang out at the fairy circles and whatever. And so when she comes home, uh, she comes home and she'd like been out like too long or whatever, and like was sick. And the husband was convinced that it was a changeling. He's like, "Who are you? You're not my wife." And she's like, "I, I am." Like, you know, it's like no, no. So the whole idea is that like the fairies would like take the real you and put someone in your place that looks the exact same, but it's just a slight difference in behavior of
Right,
your usual self, right?
right.
So, but they do all this crazy stuff to try and get it out of her. Like apparently you have 7 to 9 days, I think, I forget what it is, like, and then at midnight on the whatever the last day, like you can't change back, you can't get him back. And so like even the dad is in on this, like he believes it, and like and so they bring a priest, and the priest is trying to tell him like this is old ways of thinking, this isn't real,
Yes.
stop. Like she has a fever or whatever. Like so.
So we were told, I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm saying, but like basically, what ends up happening, I mean, they like drag it out through the show, but and this is like a true story, but what ends up happening, which is crazy, is one of the things that fairies are supposed to be really afraid of, like fire, and like so a lot of people would like hold up like some kind of flaming something to your face, and it was like, don't flinch or else you're a changeling. So like, but so what he ends up doing is like they think like she comes out of it, and she ends up basically sort of like doing it, like confessing, right? Like, oh my god, I'm so glad I'm back. Thank you for getting me back. Like, because he wouldn't let, like they had her tied to the bed.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like you have to just go with it. And then still he like, even though the rest of the family thinks like okay, and her friends are like okay, she's back, it's good, he's still like staring at it. He's just like, why aren't you eating? And she's like, well, she had laryngitis was what it was. And she's like, the bread hurts her throat. And he's like, eat eat the bread, like basically like shoving, like forcing her to eat it, because she's like otherwise she's a changeling,
Right.
and like still the changeling. And but what's shocking and horrific is at the end, essentially he beats her down, covers her in, I don't know if it's like lamp oil or whatever, sets her on fire in the house.
Mhm.
She dies right there. And like by this point, I mean the dad has been, yeah, everyone's been yelling at him to like stop for a while now, and like he's just like, but then he feels like, and the real person, it's like they went to trial and whatever else, but it like brought out like that there were people still believing in the old
Yes.
ways.
So
Yeah.
we were told about that story because of the things that you're telling me, and it was a more recent, it was somewhere in the last 20 years that this happened, right? I mean, and that people are still
Oh, they're
thinking.
still doing it. Okay, so I
Yes.
don't know that one, because this
And
one was like turn of the century, like 1900s or something. Yeah.
I don't think it was something, it was in the 90s, so they might remember, I don't remember. But it was something much more recent, and yes, like it came to light that people are still believing in some of this stuff. And he was put on trial for the murder of his wife. And what was it that he didn't, because there's a difference between manslaughter and murder and first and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
he didn't get the sentence you'd think he'd get because he really did believe, that this was so.
It's
Yeah,
like
it's
like
interesting.
plea of insanity without.
Yeah, kind of like that. So yeah, it's funny that you would say that, because
Oh
that
my gosh,
it
those
was one of the
rules.
stories that they brought up. It was the Hellfire Club,
Hmm.
was things that
That's what it
one
is.
of the things he talked about. There was another one, the one
What's
that's
that?
always,
What's the Hellfire Club? I don't know that one.
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to recite it exactly
Okay,
the
that's
way
all right.
but it was a men's club, going back 100, 200 years, whatever, and they would um do just some pretty awful things. I don't know. You're gonna have to go back and read it.
Was it like again? Okay, yeah. It was like, was it about like towards certain people, or like they had like weird rituals, or what?
Yes, things like that. So here's a quick blurb. The president of the Hellfire Club was named the King of Hell and dressed like Satan with horns, wigs, and hooves. The members were also said to set a place at each meeting for the devil in the hope that he'd attend. The members were also said to hold black masses in the lodge, during which cats and even servants were sacrificed. So, yeah, so like I said, Dark Dublin.
Wow.
Kind of approach, we're talking about this with that creepy background you have in your.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's Halloween. It's spooky season.
Halloween. Halloween. As we start off talking about nasty diseases going through the
That's
school.
the thing. Yeah, we started out talking about pus, and now we're talking about like ritualistic killings.
Well, there's this one story that, and it was the last story that that Cathal told us, and it's funny because there's just this thing painted on this next to the bridge, and it's called Billy in the Bowl, and I can't ever say it without wanting to go. It's Billy in the Bowl. It's Billy in the Bowl. Billy was born without any legs, and he still had these very strong arms. And when he got older, someone crafted him this, this metal bowl, and he would scrape along the roads, and you'd hear the scraping going through, and he would beg for money. So his name was Billy in the Bowl. But he, 1700s, 17 and 1800s, people didn't know what to do for people that were handicapped and things like that. So again, so somebody took pity and created him this bowl. I'm sorry, Billy in the Bowl.
What's funny is like, so at first I thought you said bull, like the animal. So I was like, oh my god. So I'm like, is he just gonna ride around on a bull all the time? And it was like, oh, it's even crazier.
In a metal bowl, and he would scrape through the cobblestone and brick streets. But things just, he was obviously, he lived a really sad life and everything, and so he turned to crime, where he would hide himself in bushes and make himself sound like a child crying for help to get the sympathy of women who would lean into the bushes, and he would partially strangle them and take their purses and whatnot. And I guess he ended up murdering, and so he murdered a couple women. So one woman took pity on him. Unfortunately, he didn't realize she wasn't alone, so there was a friend, and they, so when she helped get her friend out of his strangulation. Because remember, he had very strong arms from all
exactly. Constantly working out his arms.
Sorry, Billy. And so they ran to the cops, and they were like, "You're not going to believe it, but it's Billy in the Bowl." So they had to arrest him, and he spent the rest of his days in prison, which is just so sad. What a sad existence, poor thing.
That is, but it's also like, as that being like your crime, it's like you can't get away quietly. They all know the scraping.
I know you can't get away at all. You can't get away at all. I mean, exactly, because you're not going to be. I don't care what. You're not going to be fast enough. I'm trying to see if I can find. It's just this weird. It also looks. It looks almost like a.
It's like if I Google him, like, well,
you'll probably find this picture. There's Cathal. Let me see if I can find. Here we go.
Billy in the Bowl.
Billy in the Bowl. So if you look at this, that's Cathal. That's our tour guide, and it's just. It's almost like, how sometimes you've got these metal generators, whatever, and it's this metal structure, and somebody decided let's paint Billy in the Bowl here, because it's out the area where he used to live. Let's see if I can get closer. So there's
Let me see.
You see his strong arm right there.
Right.
But it looks like Japanese anime is what it looks like.
It does. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So Billy in the Bowl. That one just cracked.
Wow.
I know it's not funny, but it's hilarious at the same time.
It was like, that's crazy. Speaking of like the old things I was gonna say forever ago, when you were talking about Kevin the Hermit, I was gonna say, I'm like, there was a Kevin in the 6th century. That doesn't sound like an old name.
Right? I know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Yep. Kevin. Saint Kevin. Saint Kevin. Gosh, hilarious. So I was trying to see what's going on with royals today.
And I would say, and I guess as far as like tea business wise, because I was distracted by Ashling. um, so let's see. So tea business wise, I have basically more active like on here, kind of like always, but with like UK imports, right? So it's like we're doing the tastings and stuff
Right.
now. So
Yes.
we had, yes, we had the crisps, the salty dog crisps. Did you guys give them a chance? Did you guys try
Yeah,
'em
they're
out?
great. I love them. I love them. I also, the orange,
Yeah,
chocolate
with like the
orange.
crackle.
Yes, I've
Yeah.
always loved dark chocolate and orange together. And it has like, there's like a toffee in it too. So
Yeah, it was like it's almost like pop rocks.
yeah, oh gosh, it's so good. I just had a little sliver again last night. Very, very good.
Oh, nice. That's
So
awesome. Yeah,
yes.
Piper pretty much got to eat the whole orange thing.
Oh.
Not in one sitting, but it's like uh she ate a whole bunch in the first sitting, and then it was like, all right, that's enough. So, but she actually finished it the other night because I was kept in the refrigerator, so she finished it the other night because she has a whole lot of homework to make up, and so it was like she did a couple of lessons. It was like, here's 2 orange slices, chocolate orange slices.
Hey, sometimes I tell you what,
Yeah,
sometimes lying, bribery, and chocolates, are all a
yeah,
really
right,
what the cornerstone of good parenting. I'm telling you right now.
right.
So yes.
Yeah, but so yeah, but so other than that, I have people who want to know all the imports that I can get them, and I just haven't had a chance to email them the catalog yet. So
Oh,
I have interested shoppers.
but you have a full-time job and that
I
takes
have
up a
a
lot
full
of time.
time job,
And a
yeah,
child, yes.
and a child, and then a sick child, and then a sick me.
Right,
Like,
right.
but I'm no longer president at BNI, so
Yeah, so that
I
frees up
actually,
things.
yeah, I actually missed my last meeting because Piper was sick. My last meeting as president, and then last week, which would have been my first one as a commoner, I missed because I was sick. So today I finally came back, and I was like sitting out with the commoners, and I was like, "Whoa, this feels way different than I expected to go." I haven't sat out here in 2 years, meaning like pre-COVID when we met, because I became
Right,
president when we were still online. So I
right.
was like, yeah, so it was like, oh wow, okay. I've never even sat in this room out here because we've changed like locations after COVID. So
Okay.
I felt like way more nervous speaking like my 40 seconds out there than like running the whole meeting. I was like, I'm gonna.
But kind of relieving. It's nice when you can,
Oh, super. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It was great. And I was of course running like real late, so it would have been really bad as
oh,
a
yeah,
president.
gotcha. I have a tea party at the end of the month. And I've totally revamped the way I'm doing it, not doing food anymore, though I do offer to make and bring the scones.
Mhm.
But for an additional charge, of course.
Yeah.
But people are still finding me on the knot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but I'm like, here's my website, look this over if you're still interested. 'Cause I don't bring the food anymore. I'm not a venue, I never have been.
Sure.
And so this woman, she'd already done that. She saw me on the knot. So she looked at my website and she said, I see that you bring the tea, you serve the tea, you bring all the pretty stuff,
Right.
which is what a lot of people want. They want to do the tea party, but they don't have,
Yeah.
all the teacups and saucers and stuff.
Right.
Nor do they know how to make a proper cup.
Right.
So she said, but we'd like, of course, she said, this works really well because we want to do this for our sister. And she said, but we want to do food. And we were thinking of, she says, I don't think we're going to do scones. We were thinking of doing charcuterie too on the side. She goes, is that okay? And I'm like, let me tell you something. The afternoon tea police are not going to come and raid your event and tell you have to shut down because there's a piece of salami on somebody's plate. It's okay, you can do what you want. I said, is it traditional? No. Will I teach everybody what traditional is? Absolutely. I said, but you do what your sister wants for her bridal shower. I will bring the teas. I'll bring all the pretty stuff and I will clear it at the end of it. So yeah, I've revamped that whole thing. Haven't gotten a lot, and that's okay. Life's been real busy.
Yeah.
And the workhouse had thrown out there to me in the summer, hey, maybe we'll do another tea for election to talk about suffrage again. She's not hit me up, and obviously that's not going to happen because that's only like 3 weeks away. So
Okay.
I hate to say, but I'm kind of okay.
And for anyone watching who's not local or not familiar, Nancy doesn't work at a workhouse. Like, I've been watching a lot of old shows. I think it sounds like you have to go to the workhouse.
Workhouse. Okay, so another Halloween thing. Let's bring this up. So right down the street, about a 15-minute drive, is it used to be a workhouse. It was later turned into a prison. They have revamped. It's a beautiful brick building complex and campus, and they have a farmer's market there now. They're building a brewery. They have comedy clubs, and tucked away in the back corner is a museum, the Suffragette Museum, basically. So they asked me to come and talk about how tea was a big part of how the suffrage movement came about here in the United States and in England. So anyway, so that's why I keep saying workhouse. I don't work in a workhouse. I work sort of at the workhouse. I'm contracted. It's not a workhouse anymore. So yeah. So royal news. You sent me that the Russians tried to hack the family. Shut down their interpersonal communication system for a little while. Kate is being hailed practically a superhero.
For her colors, right?
For being able to hold her own.
For that, okay. I was saying, I know like the Ukrainian stuff, like there's been a lot of comments on that, like I don't know, I think Charles mentioned it in a speech about like,
yes.
Right. And then she wore like the colors or whatever, and so people are people on certain sides are applauding.
Yes, and people on the other side of that are trying to hack in and shut them down.
I feel like maybe that's why I read or whatever, it was like related. It was sort of like Russia's like, oh yeah, like you're gonna speak out on behalf of Ukraine.
Yes.
Like we're gonna start messing with you guys now.
Right. Will came to New York to talk about what is that? Oh
my gosh.
The global warming thing, and I can't think of what it is.
I know, and I'm like
Earthshot Prize. It was stuff like that. And then while Kate stayed back and she was doing other things, I know she did some military visit because she's kind of like their commander in chief, sort of. She has some big title over the Royal Military. But they're just saying that she's, she can hold her own. She just really doesn't get bad press, which is why when you look at the things that Meghan had to endure, I just keep going back to it. So much of that I really think was intentional, because there's no way they were going to have her trump Kate over, and I understand Harry and Meghan are in New York now touting their own Archewell charities and stuff like that. Something like that. But that's all I know. I don't think it's anything huge or big. I just finished re-listening to while I'm in the kitchen or doing things like that, Crown, and so the new season is coming out in a couple of weeks. Wait and see what happens.
I know, that'll be exciting.
The lies they perpetuate and the things they get right. So Amy and I will dissect those as much as we can.
So the British Chamber of Orlando is back in business. We had our first event last month, a luncheon at the 007 Cafe. That's like down on I Drive. It was cool, and I've never seen any James Bond movies, so there's some people like, did you see all the cars? Because it's like called Desertland Park. I think the guy's last name is Desert or something, but he basically has a crazy car collection, and there's a whole bunch of things, and like there's a plane and different things included that have been from the movies. That are like, it's like a museum. But so that was great, but they played this like video that was on YouTube, which I'll have to ask him for the link because it was really good. It was kind of like a 10-minute sort of like remembering the Queen in like just kind of in her fun moments, right? So
Right.
it was really cute. It was really nice. I mean, it touched on like some of the serious things, but for the most part, you know, it like showed the Paddington Bear stuff. And it showed
Right.
her Olympic James Bond stuff, like jumping out of the helicopter or the plane or whatever it
That
was.
was cool. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so that was cute. And then oh, but what was great is there was someone that I was chatting with, and he's American, but he has been part of the British Chamber of Commerce like pre-COVID and stuff. And so he's at lunch. He asked me, he's like, so he goes, so I'm a little disappointed in our new king. And I go, all right, let's go. I was like, if we're gonna start this, I was like, I told him I was like, okay, tell me everything you think, and then I'll tell you.
So what did he say?
So this is what's great. He goes, well, I just feel like he goes, he should he goes, now that we have the king, he should have dissolved parliament and bring it back to a monarchy. Like a full monarchy. He says it with a smile on his face.
Oh,
And I
okay.
was like, yeah, so like he set me up and I was like, that's hilarious. So he's not really disappointed. Like he didn't really have anything
Oh,
other
oh,
than
so
to
he was
say
joking.
dissolve parliament.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But I was like, that's hilarious because I've never heard anybody talk about dissolving parliament. All they do is talk about dissolving the monarchy.
Right. Right. Totally true. Totally true. And wondering how much more that's happened now that Charles has taken over, I wonder.
Right? Yeah. I don't know, but I think oh the who was it? Oh, it was probably the Royal podcast times, and like, you know, they were talking about how obviously it was a built-in transition between Queen and William, right? Like Charles is in line, but they were saying like how it really he's gonna end up being the perfect bridge between the old ways and the new ways. Like he really is a mix of them, and was like, you know, bringing it in to a little bit, you know, more modern age, but William is what everybody is like envisions for it. So I thought
And
that was a nice
they're doing
one.
such a great job. I mean, they really are. I mean, it was Charles' vision to be modern, to
Right.
sure copy. And he's like, and I know this is from the Crown, so I'm not saying that this was actually said, but I can see it being completely
Yeah.
plausible that, you know, him saying to his mom or somebody, I guess he was talking to Tony Blair in the show, and he was saying, you know, I'm divorced and I want to remarry, and that isn't recognized. He goes, what is that? You know, because that isn't what most people, you know, there's a lot of that out there now. And he says,
Right.
it just doesn't make sense that, you know, we're still stuck in this old way of thinking of things. And again, with, you know, including religions and recognizing religions other than
Yeah.
just the Church of England and stuff like that. So yeah, I think Charles, he had that ready to go. He was ready to hit the
Right.
ground running. I mean, my God, he's been sitting there for so long.
Right.
Yeah, so here's Will and Kate, and you see the kind of monarchy that they're already setting up. Trying to be so much more relatable, trying to be
Right.
out there, not this mysterious standoffish, people
Yeah.
hardly ever see us, privilege kind of thing. And I mean, just down to their wardrobe, to, you know,
Right. Right.
the way they interact with people and the charities that they take on and the way they raise their kids too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really neat. Kate's been out there in all kinds of pantsuits and pinstripe blazers and stuff, and she's,
Right.
she means business. This is, you know, and she has just done so well with her role and what she's trying to do, what they're trying to do together. So
Right.
yeah, it's gonna be different. I wonder how long we'll have a King Charles and a
Right.
Charles reign. And but I think the other two, I think they're working closely, and I think Charles probably, except for having Kate show up in a tennis skirt and a tennis racket in her hand for certain things, if they compete with whatever he's doing that day, I think
Right.
he gives them the go ahead to, yeah, we want to see the monarchy last. So let's,
Right.
you know, be part of the people. So I don't know,
Right.
that's my take.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, yeah, he had to wait forever, but because of all the stuff personally, it's fortunate for him that he had to wait that long because if he, since he wanted to be with Camilla, right, and like we, if I'm one of them, are supposed to accept her, as our queen. Like, I feel like if it would have happened any sooner, like 10 years ago or whatever, it would have been a
It
lot
would have,
harder.
yeah, or it wouldn't have
like,
happened. It's an excellent point. I don't think I ever thought about that. If he had taken
yeah,
over 20, 25 years ago, Camilla would still be that woman, behind
yeah,
the
that
curtain.
woman. Yeah, and even if, because what, they get married in like 2006 or something, I feel like 2000, I forget, but whenever they got married, it's like, even if once they were married and he became king, I think there'd be a lot more backlash about like, oh great, now she's our queen or whatever.
Right,
So
right.
I feel like now enough time has passed and there's been the anniversaries of Diana's death and like all the stuff that like Camilla can kind of be her own person, at least, especially for certain younger generations.
Right,
you know?
right, right. Well,
Yeah.
Charles and Camilla were in Paris, I think 2 weeks ago. And I kept trying to see if there was anything on, did they go to the tunnel? Did they drive
Oh,
that
right.
mile? Did they do? And I
Yeah.
couldn't find anything on it. And if they did, it probably would have been kept hush hush.
Oh, sure.
But
Yeah.
or did they just very specifically stay far, far away? I have no
Right.
So
That's
anyway,
true. I don't know. I feel like if I were them, I wouldn't want to, like, because also, like, not just for optics or whatever, but like personally, I feel like it was a long time ago. It was his ex-wife. Like, it's tragic, but like, why? I don't know why you would go to something like that. I
yeah,
don't know.
I don't know. Just because she
I
was
mean, I guess it's the mother of your kids, but still.
who will one of whom will be king one day, and that's all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I see your point. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
was just looking for
Yeah.
it.
But yeah, that's interesting. Um, so I do have to unfortunately run off to my legal job.
Yes, and I need to go myself. But man, we talked a long time, but we
But
haven't talked in a couple
I
months. So
know.
I have some Irish teas that I am sending you, and I will send you. I'll get to it eventually, and we'll have to schedule something
You're not.
for.
I'm not going to harass you about it. It's horrible.
Well, and this might be the last, and I think what we'll do just going forward, unless you get something that you really want me to try.
Right.
I love that we've been tea pen pals for so long.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, I want to share this with Amy. We
Yeah.
can do that, but I don't think we have to. Let's not force ourselves to try to come up with 3
Try
teas
and do
all the
things.
time. That we can just sit and chat like we do and sip our tea
Yes,
and
I
talk.
agree.
Great.
Tea across the miles.
That's right.
No matter what the tea.
That's exactly right. All right. Well, listen, I enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
Halloween.
Yes. Happy Halloween.
Avoid Billy in the bowl.
That's a Halloween costume.
And the
I
face.
don't know if you could get away with it. No one would know what you're referencing, and it would just seem like really
Nobody would get it
correct.
Yeah, nobody would be like, what the heck is that? He's
Yeah.
making fun of handicapped people.
I know. Like, no, this is Irish guy from like way long time ago.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, all right, hon. Well, let's schedule something before Christmas. That's all I can say. Before Christmas. Let's see if we can get something on the books.
I agree. Yes. Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Good
to see you.
Well, good to see you too. I'll talk to you later. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.